All right, hello everyone. Today we are with Miss Honma. She is a concert pianist and is involved with multiple music programs in the Bay Area. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, thank you.
All right, so let's start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? And how's that all going?
Okay, so if we're going all the way back, I am originally from Hokkaido Island in Japan, which is the northernmost island. You can see Russia from there. And when I was 5, I moved over to Utah, where because an adjudicator for a piano competition had come and kind of scouted for young students, and my mom just she's a very enterprising sort of lady, and her mind was very open. She said, "Okay, let's try it for a couple of years," and we went there, meaning to stay for just 2 years, and we ended up staying for 8.
Oh, wow.
And so my formative years were in the education system. It was a public education. I went through Logan, Utah, which is northern Utah, and went straight from there to a more specialized school in New York City. So I was there for 5 years, studying at Manhattan School of Music with a teacher called Byron Janis. And then I went to the Royal Academy of Music, where I was a student, and then I started teaching, and I lived there for 10 years. And I don't know quite when to stop listing the institutions, because you just keep learning, don't you? And I'm still at various institutions, still working, still learning.
And so, do you think that continuous process of not reaching where you exactly want to be, was that a good motivator for going up above and beyond through the institution's learning?
I think with my field, you have to be where people are, where there's centers of cultures, where there are concert halls and audiences to fill them. So in the US, we have certain hot spots that you want to be, and globally as well. You see Paris, you see London, you see Berlin, in the US, San Francisco, you see New York City, you see Philadelphia. There are certain hotbeds for these kinds of activities. So it made sense that after Utah, you do have to sort of spread your wings and learn your craft more. And that's why the draw was to New York and then to London as well.
And so obviously for centuries, the hotspot for Western classical music has been in Europe. And so do you see any shift of where the hotspots are moving to now?
Well, we are very grateful that a lot of music students are active in China and in Japan and in other Asian countries, Korea too, and now more Indian students coming in. And I think it's a pursuit of classical education, where when you're going back to old classical Greek times, music and athletics and maths was like a part of your general education. Right. And I guess there must have been some reason for it, because there's still kind of a trend that to have a complete education, music is a part of that. And I guess there's the way the education system is set up. It's a lot is trickling over from European civilizations, and the piano in particular is a very Western type of instrument. It started in aristocratic houses. It started inside of a church. It started not a Buddhist church, meaning a Christian sort of. I mean, if you go back to William Byrd and all these people, they were writing for Queen Elizabeth. You look at Bach, he was writing for Protestant churches. Right. And then these composers kind of spilt their music over into the secular environment, into your homes, and the first keyboards were in castles, were in big homes, and so in that way, it's a very Western type instrument. So it's very important that you learn about history, art history, and if you can, immerse some of yourself in European culture, because you can't really divide that from what you're doing.
Right, and so speaking of immersion, so you mentioned that you were at the University of Utah, and as well in Manhattan, the Manhattan School of Music, and so how did that impact your life and career?
Okay, so northern Utah, first of all, is Utah State University.
Okay.
University of Utah is in Salt Lake.
Okay.
BYU is in Provo. There are 3 main universities in Utah.
Okay.
So sorry, your question was?
How did the college education impact your life and career?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think more than I had a choice of going to Juilliard or to Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
And what I learned before going there was that the Juilliard was very famous, more recognized than Manhattan School of Music, and it had famous teachers. But from my friends and people I had run into at competitions, the inside story was, even if you got accepted into one of these classes from some of these famous artists, they're probably only going to see you for very few times of the year, and you will be with their sub because they're busy.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
why they're famous, because they're
Right.
out doing things. And I thought that's not, I don't want so much the endorsement or the branding. And I thought, I read a lot when I was in Utah because there wasn't much to do. And from what I understood, I think teacher is probably the most important part of your education, not the building, not so much the other stuff, the fluffy stuff.
Right.
Although that's really attractive to
Right,
be
sure.
able to put on your wall. I got the degree from Juilliard.
Right.
But there was a teacher who was just so committed, and it's Byron Janis. He studied with Horowitz, and he didn't take many students. But I had somebody make introductions, and I played for him. And after I heard how he actually played, because I was a little bit shelled up in Utah, you're a bit isolated out there. I didn't know who he really was. And after I played for him for this audition, I thought, I should get to know more about him. Well, while he was saying, hold on, let me think about it and I'll call you, I went to Tower Records. It was still in existence.
Okay.
They're not there anymore. And I bought a couple of discs. And I listened to this thing, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I just played for this person. He's so amazing. And I would have been totally okay. I would have understood. I didn't get in. But I did get in, and we spent a lot of close hours together. He spent 3 hours a week with me, and he was known as a tough teacher, because if you weren't ready, your lesson was 15 minutes long, or you'd just be booted out.
Right.
So I went through that hard school of knocks sort of method, and every week you had to bring in a new program. But I really wanted to learn. That's why I was doing this, and I felt maybe I was missing out being in Utah. So I thought, I'm not a big city person. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know I'm here to do this one thing, so I'm going to get that right, although I might mess up everything else. Sure. I might mess up my bagel order and get yelled at by the deli person. But I know that when I go home, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I was very happy to be challenged, to be pushed. I love, it's the feeling of growth. So I like the boot camp feeling, and I was feeling like I am getting my money's worth, because the rent was, I don't know what it is now, but I had a small studio apartment. It was $838 a month, and for me it was a lot. And because it was a small shoebox. Everybody, you had a little kitchenette here, and then my piano and my bed, and that was it. You could hardly scoot around. That was it. So when you make an investment in yourself, you kind of appreciate it when other people bother to invest in you too. So maybe some people, when they're younger, they don't get it because school is free. Their parents are paying for everything. Sure. So you don't see that each credit is costing you money, that the whole tuition thing, and then there's the housing thing. And then there's just taking care of you thing, the food, the extras, the clothes, and whatever else you call it. And then you value your time more.
And so that independence made you constantly, had you constantly thinking about, your expenses and food, and especially what you're focusing on at school?
Well, I was lucky because my mom supported me for the first couple of years, and then it was, I actually can't help you anymore situation. And so I had to quit, was what was in front of me. But a sponsor, I was very lucky because a sponsor showed up at the very last minute to say, you know what, I like what you're doing, and I think you deserve help. And so I never really had to worry, except for that one moment. I thought, well, I guess.
Must have been scary.
Not really. I also come with this attitude that life presents what you're supposed to be doing if you just keep your eyes open, if you kind of have a direction. I don't close doors because it didn't quite fit in the plan. I try it, I learn from it, and I kind of don't get stuck in one avenue. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, if that's not where I'm supposed to be, that's also kind of how I ended up in London. Somebody, after I had finished my tuition, and I was thinking, well, I don't really want to live in New York for the rest of my life. I don't envisage myself raising a family here, and that's not it doesn't quite feel right, because my teacher was not giving me as many lessons. He was saying, okay, I'm kind of, you're ready to go on your own now. And I was thinking, no, I'm really not. I know I still would like more help. And I could have started building students up there, but again, I didn't want to get rooted there. And just when I was thinking maybe I need to go back home to Utah and have a think about what to do, an old competition organizer called up, and I said, well, I'm leaving New York, so I just wanted to let you know, and it was because of people like you that I ended up here, because I had done a lot of competitions before I'd been to the college. That took me partly because I had all this background. And he said, well, have you considered going to London? I said, no. He said, why not? I said, because it seems too big. It's too far away. I had kind of thought I would have not thought beyond in the context of the surroundings. Yeah, it's weird. And I didn't know anybody there. I have no friends there. So I did some phone interviews with who would become the mentor for my master's degree, and her and a couple of email exchanges with the keyboard teacher that was going to be there were the only names I had, the only contact I had. Took my briefcases, went, and that's how I started London, because it seemed like the right thing to do. Right. So picking Utah over Juilliard, and then going to London, some of your big decisions that affected you today. And so a lot of people today especially emphasize, go out there and, get the resources that you need to succeed. But do you find that when you were growing up, or when you were beginning your career, that you just focused on yourself and then people came to you for because they saw something? I was often like, I'm not sure I had very much time to think, because there were so many hours I had to practice, like 6 to 8 hours a day. And wow. On the weekends it increased to 10 if it was before a competition. But it wasn't always 10, that's a lot. So it was always between 6 and 8. So the competition sort of led, and I knew those need to be on my CV for some reason. I just trusted my mom and my teacher, and I didn't think much beyond that. So when you're independent, you suddenly have time to think, and I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to build this career thing. I just know how to do the technical aspect, and I just had to learn everything from scratch.
I see.
So when I teach, or when I have chances to talk to young people, I always emphasize the part where it's really important to have an idea of where you want to. What do you want to do with this ability? Because you can't go in there thinking, oh, one day I'm going to be rich and famous. I'm going to be one of those famous people. Listen, there's only like 3 or 4 famous pianists out there. Only at one. It's designed that way. Otherwise, the market gets saturated.
Sure.
And but there are thousands and thousands of people aspiring in some way to hone their skills, right? What do you want to do? Well, so keep your eyes open. Don't be a snob. Don't be an art snob. Just see how you can be useful. Music is a great thing. So really go back to the basics of what is it that you do? How does it benefit others? And what's my place? And so it's all tied in together. You know, you develop as a pianist, you develop as an artist, as a person. It all kind of, you have to let all of these things grow. You can't just get stuck in one thing or another. It just doesn't work. It's like a car that's running with tires pointing in different directions.
Right. So having that direction and seeing exactly where you want to go.
Yeah. Keep in mind, you know, don't do this with your eyes. You know, listen to other people, and they might need your help, and you don't know it, but sometimes people come back and help you in ways you didn't expect.
Right. And so obviously you've gone through some very hard decisions that you had to make at some points in your career. But what was the hardest choice or the hardest decision you had to make?
I'm not so much thinking that these were hard decisions, because there are many more hard circumstances out there for a lot of other people. These are like luxury.
Sure.
But mostly it's overcoming your fear of the unknown. Are you okay going somewhere you don't know anybody? And are you comfortable being in a bigger tank where suddenly everybody seems so much farther ahead than you? And just don't let that despair creep in, and think, well, and just talk to yourself like a coach would, like, well, you're still young, or you're just new here. You know, everybody starts somewhere. You know, you have to just kind of keep that voice.
Sure. If
you don't have a friend there with you, you have to just kind of get that inner voice going inside of you so you don't give up. But I think as long as you hang on to what it is that you want to do in the first place, you'll get there somehow.
Right. And so about, not giving up. So you said that, before concerts, you'd practice for 10 hours a day, and then most of the time you practice for 6 to 8 hours, right? So
that was back then. Not now. I don't have that time now.
But even then, what kept you going for those, obviously it's tough practicing for 6 to 8 hours or 10 to 8 hours, multiple hours in a day. So what kept you going to further and further, more practice? Is it just your passion for piano that
just like in church or school or anywhere else, I think it's your older, like, mentor type figures, like parents or teachers, those people telling you that that's the thing you ought to be doing. And part two is the community that you have around yourself. So I took my lessons at the Utah State University because that's where my main teacher taught. I was not a teacher. I was not enrolled there, obviously, because I'm not a college student. But they did have a youth conservatory, and I had high school, middle school. You know how you move around from class to class. So all your friends, they're varied, and you don't spend very much time with any of them. And I didn't have many opportunities to have any time with people outside of school.
Right.
But in the afternoons, I went to the university, and there would be the other students that were taking lessons, and they would, and I would mix with college students or everybody who was in the music department, and everybody had water breaks. Everybody had. You need to take a break after about an hour because you just go nuts because you're in a square room and you're just like practicing. And I remember. And some of us would be practicing the same pieces, so it would be competitive. Oh, that sounds better than so I better go back.
Right. So surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah,
and people driven as you, or more driven than you, I suppose.
Yes, and we would goof off as well. I remember coming back to my practice room once, and I thought, that's funny, my pedal's stuck, And it turned out some kid was holding down my pedal. He was like been waiting under the piano for ages since I took my break, came back, and had to play this certain part to all that stuff. Or we would scare each other leaping out of the corridors, or so there's a lot of practical joking going on. But all the time because we were stressed, those were our relief.
I see.
But we would hang out together too when we go to competitions. If we go to LA, then we took a day out to go to Six Flags or whatever. Not Six Flags. It was Knott's Berry because they had fewer lines and we only had an hour. I remember.
Yeah. So, how important do you think having friends like that is when you're going through? Obviously, we know that friends get you through a lot of tough times, but specifically for you, how is it having them around you in these high stress environments?
I think they were really good sports because they stayed my friends and they were supportive even when I won. Now in hindsight, and I see what's going on, sometimes that's a good way to lose friends, to be that competitive and then to come out on top more often than not. But they were always like super nice. They were, and we're still in contact today, and they never wished anything but the best. And I did the same for them as well. We just went in there and hoped for the best. And I mean, I didn't win first prize all the time either, but whether we won or lost, we were there together, suffering the hotel room situation, and you know, there's no time to practice, there's nowhere to warm up, and but we knew each other, so we're like little family troop moving around doing these things together. I guess like gymnastics team, you know, there's a bond that's beyond friendship. The common experience, and you carry that, because there's nothing like it when you're in an adult environment. There's nothing like it that you would experience as a younger person. But it wouldn't have worked if we didn't work so hard as well. I mean, we invested a lot of ourselves into these things, so the emotions were running high,
right? And
we were very young, so we did stupid stuff. We did, but so long as we kept on target with what we were there to do, our parents were pretty easy about the rest of whatever happened. And so the friends, the community thing is important. Your feedback and their mentors and people leading you there. And I think you also need to, if you don't like it, you're not going to last very long. So whatever field you're in, someone told me the way you know what your passion is can you imagine yourself staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning
doing that thing,
right? Then you're onto something.
Okay. Wow. And so a lot of times, I'm sure this happens in many fields. I'm sure it happens in music. When you're practicing for hours and hours and you don't seem to be getting anywhere, or so what do you do? What do you do in that situation? I mean, do you take a break?
Yeah, go do something else.
Something else.
Yes. To be honest, for the last 2 weeks, I have maybe 3 weeks, hardly any practice, because up until mid-June, it was just like one thing after another, and you need to clear space, or your music goes funny.
Sure.
You feel that you're trying to save time and you're calculating some solutions when you should be listening, and being the creative mode doesn't come when you've got too many things going on at the same time. You can invest more in something if you're in a more better place, psychologically, emotionally.
Sure.
So for yesterday I started vamping up again, because come September is going to a lot of things are going to be happening again. So it's nice. So what did I do? We're working as a family on building a chicken run. Oh. We've got 4 chickens.
Wow.
You'll find out about them after.
Okay, all right.
What else? So home improvement things and binge watching some show. I finally got in. I saw this thing called Stranger Things.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Because I had seen a skit.
Popular lately, yeah.
Yeah, I've been a follower of SNL, Saturday Night Live, for like a long time, and they had done a skit, and I thought, I don't even know what that is, and it was perfect to watch with the kids. I must know what it is, yeah.
And so jumping ahead a little bit, what is your advice to the next generation for living a meaningful life? Living a meaningful life.
I think that question we better served asking the Dalai Lama. And you can actually
everyone
Google.
has some knowledge.
You can actually go and Google, and I'm sure he has better answers, but I guess everybody's story counts.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. I hope I'm going the right way, and I'll only know when I'm 60, or if I live to be 80, I'll know, right? I think something that I've reached in my 40s was a place where you feel like I know what I like, and I also know what I don't like, what I'm willing to sacrifice and what I'm not willing to move on, and I'm not afraid to represent myself in a social context without feeling like I had compromised important things. It's not that complex. It's just feeling comfortable with just who you are, and you're okay. Your likes are okay. If you don't like something and other people seem to like it, that's fine. You can even say that, and it's fine. It took me a long time to get to a place where I was comfortable with what I was doing,
right.
and I'm not. And I, if people think I'm a music nerd, I'm actually fine. I had that conversation with my kids in a car a few days ago. My daughter wants to be a vet. Right now she's very much into animals. I said, you're an animal nerd. And you can wear that with pride.
Right, yeah.
And my son, he's into violin, he's into soccer. I said, you're a soccer geek. That's great. There's nothing wrong with having an extra arm grow out of you because you had to play soccer. That's fine.
Sure, yeah.
But apparently a lot of people don't get to that point. They feel a bit self-conscious and they feel apologetic. Don't be apologetic.
Yeah, I guess the stigma of being so passionate about something is almost like, he's a nerd, he's a geek.
It makes you different.
It makes you different, yeah.
Are you okay with being different? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be needed a lot in the future. Different people. We can't, all be the same, I suppose.
The thing that makes us the same is probably all the stuff that automation can take our work with.
Right.
So it's the creative, that little differences,
The music.
How you see things, how you interpret things, what you have to say, how you listen and then kind of digest and put back into the world. That's just you. Everybody is so different, and beneath the surface of it all, everybody has some suffering, something they're afraid to say, or they just need to keep shut up, and you have to respect that. But that also is something that robots cannot take over.
Right.
But something that's part of the human condition. Some people are afraid of death. Some people are afraid of I'm actually not afraid of death. I'm afraid of the pain associated with the stuff that's leading. But if I go in my sleep, I try to live a day each. I reached this point in my teenage years where I'm like, did I go through this day? Did I do everything I could have in case I died tomorrow?
Right.
And I kind of still carry that with me today. I think because my cat died, and my grandmother had died when I was 3, and then after my cat had died, I had just thought about death a lot and read lots of books about it, and I feel better, and if I had done my best, even if I'm tired. That's another driving factor. How do you keep going 6-8 hours? Did I do everything I could have possibly done today? And am I tired? But not tired so that I'm in pain, because then you get tendonitis.
Sure.
But I had nothing else to have to do. My mom did the laundry, she did the cooking, she did the cleaning. I had no kids, no work obligations, just school. Did I do my homework? That's so simple, you guys. I almost have I have zero tolerance for when my kids say, "Oh, there's so much homework." I say, "Well, get it done."
Right.
That's the easy part.
The grit, you have to go through it.
Yeah, just how hard is it? If it's hard, just ask us questions. And the hardest part is for them to sit through it. So, oh my gosh, we need to go visit Thailand. You need to see, what a hard time really is. You guys have it easy. You have clean running water. You have, you don't have flies and wind blasting through your living room because you're on a lean-to with 4 poles and a thing, and you can go to the bathroom without, with privacy and without seeing 15 other people's stuff at the same. I don't think people understand.
Right.
And here's another thing: when you read stories about World War II or whatever. When there's times of war, you hear about all these amazing things people are able to do. They can forage, they help each other, they live on like a tiny bit of flour. There's rations, right? Right. And there's bombs falling, right? And there's these amazing stories. That's how amazing people are.
Right.
So what the hell happens when we have peace?
Right, yeah.
What is up with these people?
It's like we have to go through the hardest things, the hardest situations to actually, come out and be our best.
Yeah, why?
But really, it should be when we have everything.
We should, right?
Right. So don't save all your talent and all of your passion for.
Don't wait for some
Okay.
to make you realize that you have so much in you.
Right.
There's so much more potential.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to understand, I think you need to read books or talk to other people who had gone through hardships. And then, I don't know, it's really hard to explain to kids, don't take things for granted. Until they don't have it, they don't really know.
It's a mistake that has to be learned the hard way, I suppose.
Yeah, and the same thing with, okay, so if you're not united in your school, right, because there's these little cliques and there's all these people and they're all different. But if a rival school came and they said they're going to destroy your football team or your basketball team,
and suddenly
it's like,
everyone
hey, suddenly those differences magically disappear and say, hey, we got to do something about this. We're going to beat you guys and make sure that we're not going to. So we have that in us too. So where is it?
Right.
Do we have to wait for a big threat? Do we have to wait for war to bring out the best in us? They use the time of peace to, Winston Churchill. What are we fighting for if we get rid of music? We get rid of art. That's the whole point.
Right.
And I hope people don't forget. And I'm terrified that education is getting wiped out systematically in the United States with the, funding being taken away. And every which corner, every year something's happening. The PTAs and all these other people have to try to lobby for education. We shouldn't have to. Because if everybody was educated, wouldn't you feel more comfortable if you were in a retirement home and someone's taking care of you who had been educated, right? Or you're too old to lead a country, but somebody else is. Wouldn't you feel better if they were educated?
Yeah, absolutely.
It would help each other if we all, right?
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity. We have the books. I mean, my God, the internet is like. I grew up, no Google, right? No Wikipedia. We had to go to the books. We had to go to the class. You can't even get there unless you graduate and go to that professor's class in college in some place you're not going to get in because it's Ivy League and hoity-toity or whatever. Now it's just all on tap.
Right.
And this is the time where we should be like the height of civilization.
Right.
And
this should be our permanent golden age. Yeah. So a lot of work has to be done. And thank you for sharing your views with us today.
Oh, well, I don't want to sound like I'm talking down. I'm learning as much from you. I mean, I usually don't get a chance to talk about all these things. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. All right.